Good evening, everyone. Tonight is November 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And I would like to call to order the Columbus City Council meeting for tonight. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would someone please make the motion to approve the consent agenda?
So this is Janet. I approve consent agenda items 3 and 7.
Rob, I'll second.
Is there any questions or discussion? We'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye. Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye. We're quickly on to letter C, public open forum. So whoever wants to speak, come on up to the microphones, please. Give your name and address for the record and pull your microphone right up to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So my name is Gina Shervin. My address is 14496 Geneva Avenue North in Hugo. I am here with the part of the Columbus Lions Club. And we just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what we do, who we are. I think they passed out some of our placemats that have some of the things on there. But we're here tonight to let the people of Columbus know that they have a Lions Club and what that Lions Club does for them. We've been servicing this community for almost 50 years. We are a small piece of a much larger nonprofit service organization known as Lions International. Lions International is the largest service organization in the world. We currently have about 1.4 members in over 1.4 million members in over 200 countries throughout the world. All ages, we are men and women. Some of the bigger things that Lions do is to step in when there's a devastating disaster by donating money, supplies, and time. We have other global causes that we support as well. Some of those are diabetes, vision, hearing, hunger, the environment, and childhood cancer. Through research and funding, we have helped thousands of individuals and their families. We raise money not only for those causes, but also for the causes right here in this community. We have helped victims of that have had house fires, children with cancer, home improvements for the disabled, providing service dogs to those in need, providing not only reading glasses or hearing aids to children or elderly in need that can't afford them, but many other things. When you come to a French toast and pancake breakfast, every single penny that you pay at the door or every item that you donate to us goes back to our community. When you support our concessions stand at Fall Fest or the softball tournaments, every penny is going to help make someone else's life a little bit better. We're a small but mighty club. All the events we do, we try to do many. But we need not only your monetary support, we need members. So if you're interested in becoming one of us, you can feel free to reach out to one of our members. You can find us on Facebook at Columbus Lions. You can send us an email at columbusmnlions@gmail.com. We'd invite you to come to one of our meetings where we'll feed you a meal. They're every other Wednesday, the first and third Wednesdays. And then invite you to join if you so wish. So any questions or anything else that you guys have to add?
Anybody?
I have a question. Thank you for coming. Do you have any requirements to join? Like, do you have to be have any certifications? You don't have to be a
18
veteran?
Nope.
Nothing?
Nope.
Okay.
Willing to give up yourself.
We give up a lot of time, for sure.
Oh, I just got a comment. Thanks for everything you do in the community. See you at the schools, see you up here at Pancake Breakfast, and knowing that that goes back to our community, so thank you. I've heard of stories like, you know, the Lions buying backpacks for kids in need, school supplies, things like that, so thank you.
And I want to thank you for coming too. Gina and I have had several conversations about the good work that they do and the fact that probably a lot of people don't really know what it is that they do support and how important it is in our community. So I'm really glad you took the time to come and share with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll move on to number 9, which is the Planning Commission report. I was liaison again last week, and so it was a pretty brief meeting. I'll give you the highlights. Myra Shear from 753 to West Broadway in Columbus came requesting a renewal for her 10 German Shepherds for her kennel license. So we went through all the pages of information, and the sheriff's department had called and said there had been no issues. She had photos that were pretty nice of her building for her animals and pictures of her champions, et cetera, et cetera. So the Planning Commission unanimously sent it forward to us with their approval. Does anyone have any questions who wasn't at the meeting or didn't listen in?
No, I wasn't at the meeting, but I read through everything and it looked like everything was intact. I didn't see where there was any complaints from neighbors. It meets all the criteria of our ordinance.
Yep.
And it's just a renewal, so, and it's always nice to put in a picture of a puppy if you're looking for an approval, so that was helpful.
And also, one of her neighbors was here to testify on her behalf,
Oh, okay, good.
but I forgot to ask if anybody else wanted to testify. So after it was done, I said, well, why were you here? So I was going to say what a good job she does and what a nice place. I said, well, sorry. But it was sent forward unanimously, so. So with that said, I'll make the motion to approve the residential kennel IUP application for Myra Shear at 7538 West Broadway Avenue for a maximum of 10 dogs over the age of 6 months for a term of 10 years, subject to the conditions 1 through 29 in the planner's memo dated 10/26/23. Is there a second?
Yeah, this is Sue, I'll second.
Are there any other questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, I.
Janet, I.
And Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye. So she's good for 10 more years. Dun-dun-dun.
Good luck on that little mail of yours you were telling us about. Yeah.
So
Exciting.
thanks for coming in. We're good. All right, now we have a presentation from LATV, and that's on pages 40 through 46 of our packet.
Well, I learned too late, I should have put a puppy on the cover of my budget.
It does help.
So I kind of summed this up in my cover letter. Elizabeth told me that it was a little confusing because most years I come and there's a 0 at the bottom of my budget. This year there's not a 0 at the bottom of my budget because we are supported by cable subscribers, which as a result of Netflix, Hulu, everything, those go down drastically, and our salaries, our rent, our insurance goes up every year, and this year we crossed that threshold. And so one is going to keep going down, and the other one's going to keep going up. So we're looking for other forms of revenue and other options for that. The good news is we have plenty of a surplus to keep us going while we figure it out for a while, but it is a problem that is not going to go away. So this year I was doing, they just switched city administrator assistant in Forest Lake. I was working with him, and we were coming up with options for possibly incorporating us into that city somehow, whereas your financial obligation here would be the same. It would just go to Forest Lake, but we might be an employee of them. They might somehow, take on some of the cost for us to stay up, but this year we will lose $9,000 in our budget. And Sue was in these meetings. We tried very, very hard, and it's just a reality. And we kind of gave ourselves, I can't say we, but our cable commission gave us a pretty big bump in salaries a couple years ago to accommodate inflation and everything, and that hurt the budget quite a bit. So in the last 3 years, there's been a $9,000 switch in the rent, the salaries, the insurance, and as a result, this budget is $9,000 in the red. And unfortunately, that's not something that's going to change going forward. But we're looking for ways to offset that, and the one we're going to try first is sponsorship. So some of our live streams do very, very well. We have football games that 5,000 people watch us, graduation, 5,000 people watched us. I just did a live stream for Veterans Day at the high school this morning, and we had every school in the school district watch. We had 47 schools watch our live stream. So there's sponsorship opportunities for local businesses that will help us out. I just made a deal with the girls hockey boosters, and they're going to cover all of our production costs to do their whole season. And as a result, I can sponsor in those games with local businesses. So there's different things we're going to try to offset this, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
And I will just add that there's a surplus or an
Yep.
amount that is rolls over each year that
Yep.
will cover the 9,000
Yep.
this year and potentially even next year. So there's time to make adjustments and.
It would keep us going for 5, 6, 7, 8 years if we had to, but we have cut it down. Like our office supplies is $50. Our operating expenses are as low as they can go. It is literally rent, salaries, and insurance is the entire budget right now. So that's just kind of where it's at. And I'm open to any suggestions anybody has. So.
I don't have a suggestion, but
Yep.
I got a comment or a question. How come when it gets to the playoffs, you guys you have to register, like football playoffs?
They're owned by other entities in the state, and it actually depends on what type of playoff it is. And that was last year, we kind of broke the rules and aired the first playoff game, and we had 5,600 people watch us live. We give them away for free. This year, we had to go through NSPN TV, which is a paid subscription service, and we had 92 people watch us live.
Well, I paid that money.
Yep.
What was it, $30 or something?
Yep.
But how come Forest Lake didn't go on? That's what I wanted to watch.
Go on for what?
In the playoffs, when they got beat there by Minnetonka.
What do you mean?
I wanted to see more games.
Oh, I gotcha. We all did. And the last game was it was very predictable, but it was a little ugly.
Well, I wouldn't say it was
Yes.
predictable. There,
Yeah.
things happen, but no, it was pretty good. And that Stillwater game, I thank you guys for coming on and saying, I think it was a Stillwater? No, Egan.
Sure.
The one where you couldn't get to TV, you couldn't get it out, but your announcer said if you want to go to Egan TV, was it Egan or?
Well, and we get creative. So for the away games, like this last away game was a playoff game that we can't broadcast. So they literally watch the other team's broadcast sitting here, and they announce it like a radio program. And we had 940 people listen to them do the game. It's a little bizarre, but
Well, there was one game though that I can't remember if it was Stillwater. One of them they couldn't broadcast.
okay.
But they said, go to Stillwater TV.
Oh.
And click it on.
Sure.
So that's what I did. I turned it on that way. But it was nice of them to say that.
Yeah.
I'd have never thought about it, but it's pretty good.
It is cool. And we have 3 announcers that are all related, 2 brothers and their uncle. They were all past Forest Lake football heroes. And so there's sibling arguments in there and all this. And they're kind of fun. They're very different than when you watch the other stations that have a ton of money. It's 2 guys in a suit, really good. They do what they do. Ours is just they have fun with it. And
Right, it is. It's a good program.
Yep.
Yeah, the playoffs, they sound a little more professional.
yeah. Well, we were instructed we had to because we had to be neutral. They're like, you can go a little bit of a hometown slant, but we get a lot of calls if they're a little too mean to the other teams. So, I had a little chat with them. And even the station, the NSPN we went through, they had quite a few meetings with me to see if we're going to use their announcers or my announcers, and mine won out, so we got to do it. But again, when people had to pay, it dropped drastically. So I'm looking at ways to give it away for free as the service. I'd rather have 5,000 people watch it and make up the money somewhere else, you know.
Oh, well, it was good. They were good
Yeah.
announcers.
Yeah, I like them.
So Paul, educate me. Your revenue stream is from franchise fees?
Yes.
So
we get-
is the change because less people are doing cable or what?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can break that down a little more. It's only if you subscribe to cable TV, not cable internet. Now, I did learn, we have this company called MACTA, and I would love to tell you what the exact acronym stands for, I don't. But it's a Minnesota company that works with all of the cable TV stations in Minnesota. And it's their kind of overseeing. They don't really tell you what to do, but they help you out by showing what everyone else is doing. And Minneapolis and St. Paul have gigantic stations. They have very high-paid attorneys, and they are all fighting for us little guys as well. And I learned this month at a MACTA meeting that Comcast and Charter actually do give some of their internet dollars to their cable stations. Midco just doesn't. So that might be something we can work on in the future. I have another MACTA meeting next Wednesday that is a seminar for revenue generation is the topic. And so this isn't just us. This is every cable TV station. They were all created when cable TV was new, and it was this big service. Well, now everything is online, and I give away everything online, and that's not where my money comes from, but I'm kind of here as a service to the community, so I'd rather have, you know, it get out there and so.
All right. So there's no change this year?
Well, yeah, you guys pay the same amount. It's in the franchise fee. You pay, I don't know, 80% of what your franchise fees that come to you through your cable subscribers are, and then you just pass that on. It's my job to do the best thing I can with it. This year, that just wasn't great, but it wasn't for lack of trying.
So the cable franchise fees, the way it works, and I'm not sure, I'd have to look up because it's been so long that we've done it this way that, but it's a certain percentage that the city keeps and a certain percentage that we pass along to the cable franchise group. I want to say years ago, I think Forest Lake gives you 100%.
Nope, they give us, I want to say 89%,
Oh,
and they
so-
keep the rest for their administrative costs
Okay.
in grabbing a check and giving it.
So they do the same thing. We keep 88%, I'm sorry, we forward 88% and we keep 12%. Again, for administrative fees. And it may have been just 1 year that they gave 100% because they were short. So it's been quite some time to sometimes close the gaps. We're talking from Columbus. The retention in any given month is anywhere from like $160 to $190. And when I say to you, we don't get the same check every month. It varies because it is based on the cable TV, only the cable portion of their bill. So it's just how many hookups that you have and whether people are in or out. And so it's just not consistent.
Yep. And it did go up a little with everybody got CARE dollars and a lot of new cable lines got ran in cities, and so it went up a little bit. And Midco did get grants from the state where their plan is to be 100% of people will have internet because they can do it wirelessly now. So they're installing these wireless towers that work the same as the cable lines, because in the past they wouldn't run a cable line somewhere if there wasn't more than 25 homes within a square mile. And now they're getting to the point where they can do it wirelessly and cover everybody. And they're working on that over the next few years. So it may or may not go up some, but again, people will watch Netflix over their cable channel. So, and you can get your local channels on YouTube now. So it's a struggle.
Anyone else, Rob, anything?
No, thank you, Paul.
Sure.
So,
Sorry, I don't have better news.
Yeah.
Well,
we still love what
everything's
we-
went up, so.
Yep, we still love what we do, and we still have a ball every day, but
And you do a great job. I
And
mean,
yes.
I have to say thank you. I've seen you, not just at like our Fall Fest, but I've seen you up at the Hallberg Center, and I mean, you're kind of everywhere.
Yep.
So thank you.
Oh, I was going to ask, the pictures that you took at Fall Fest, are they on the website? I haven't even tried to
don't know
look.
yet. I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
I hope the hacker didn't get them.
My email was hacked last week. It was fun. I learned a lot about email last week.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else, anyone?
Thank you.
Yep.
Do we need to make this motion?
You do, as I told Paul, I didn't know what number to put in there. I don't know what so is the budget number 141, 155, or, you know what I mean, for an actual budget number?
Well, technically, we're going to spend 141 and we're going to receive 131.
But our budget should be the number that we pay.
Yours, and I don't know where yours is in this. And I don't know that it is in this, is it? So that would be on a different page.
I think the franchise fees are combined between Forest Lake and Columbus.
So yeah, and again, that's a tough prediction because we're not sure exactly what's going to come in, but based on, so if you go to page 3 or 4, whatever it is.
Well, how about this? We could say that I would move to approve the 2024 Cable Commission budget as presented in our handouts pages 42 through 46.
Rob, second.
Any other questions, anyone? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, I.
Janet, aye.
And Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye.
Now we got it done.
All right, and I just have something I want to hand you guys and just talk about it really quickly. It's just it wasn't really a packet item. And I'm stepping away from the microphone, sorry, Brian. So, this was just.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is kind of a twofold thing. This is an easy thing I can do, and we can be very creative with it without a lot of editing and stuff. So this was just to offer a podcast to the city of Columbus. You have a mayor's message, you have a council's corner, you have a Columbus update. Those could turn into audio versions. Those could turn into audio versions if you wanted to sit down. I have a podcast system that is very portable. I could bring here and you could do it right here. Technically, we could do it with these microphones, but my stuff would sound much better. Or you guys are welcome to come. I have a studio in the high school that it's always set up, and we did one a couple days ago. And just kind of chat about things you have going on. They can be different topics. If you have a touchy subject that's coming up, you can explain your thinking a little more detailed behind why you're deciding what you're deciding, just a little bit of insight. So I just threw some suggestions on the page for different avenues you could go down, but you have some pretty detailed printed stuff on your website that could turn into just talking about it with each other as well. You know, and it doesn't have to be grand stuff. It can be, you know, you have some small businesses that are struggling, bring them in. I'm meeting with the Chamber of Commerce tomorrow. They're probably going to do one and bring in different businesses each week. We did one with the football team that was very successful this year. Is every Monday, the head coach and a former quarterback would sit down and talk about last week's game and next week's game, and we had tons of listeners for that. And as soon as I put it out at Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google, it instantly goes to all of them. So it's super easy to find anywhere. And we just started one with the school because I met with the career counselor there on a different thing. And she was telling me all these cool things that are going on at the school. And I said, how do people know about that? And she goes, I don't really know. So I suggested this, and we recorded our first episode last week with Psychology of Childhood, and it's a class that they give away free daycare, and it's any students that want to go into the field of some kind of further education, something maybe it's dealing with smaller kids, and so they literally are treated like children to see what it feels like as they're being taught to deal with children. And it was really cool. So we had a half-hour conversation with 2 students, the career counselor and the teacher, and it was just fantastic. That'll come out this week. The next one's going to be, we just did that Veterans Day program today. It's all the students that helped put that together. So they're going to come in and just talk about what it's like to put together an event like that. And it's based off a thing called Career Launch that they do in the high school that is more geared towards students that aren't necessarily going to go to 4 years of college. They might go to trade, different things. And the high school offers a ton of programs for other revenue or other avenues for students to go in. So we're going to kind of highlight different things students can look forward to and parents can check out. And
Is that with Molly Bonnet?
yep,
Okay, yeah, I'm involved in that program.
yep, she's awesome. So
Yeah, no, it's great.
I just stopped in for a
So
totally
is Jerry
different thing.
O'Shea, our county engineer. He goes there as well for the same things.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you.
She's my go-to for everything there. If I have a question, I just email Molly and she helps me.
So Paul, would the podcast be called Columbus Connect?
No, that's just me trying to throw something out there.
Oh, I like it.
it's good.
I like
So,
it.
It can be anything. That was me, and full disclosure, 99% of this was written by AI. So
That's all right. I'm learning that is happening a lot.
yes,
I like this idea. I mean, we're always trying to figure out other ways of getting information out there. And I mean, I listen to podcasts a lot. And I think once people discover you, and if you have content that's interesting and relevant, they'll keep coming back, or they'll get their updates or whatever. So I think it's another way to try to get information out there.
I think I can build this pretty successfully, and this would be a really good revenue sponsorship stream. Podcasts can make a lot off sponsors, and again, this is just local businesses. And so we can put together little ads for businesses and whatnot that just, this is brought to you by so-and-so, and
Is there any other city that's doing this?
this is pretty new.
Okay.
So I initially created the whole system to do it with students, and I have a group of students that do one on video gaming. Surprise, surprise, that is what it is. So, and they have a ball with it. They come in, and they are pretty detailed. I make them plan out what they're going to talk about, and I stick them to a schedule of, okay, we're going to talk about this game and this developer and this state of the industry, and once they got kind of in the groove of it, they do really well, and they show up very prepared. So that was why it started, was mainly for students, but now I'm just kind of going to everybody, and I think just the government in general, to go more in detail than you guys do in a meeting, and more of a personal, here's why I think this is a good thing,
Can you do something for the Lions? They're looking for members.
So I pitched the Lions, the podcast, and I love the Lions, but they looked at me like I was an alien, because I don't know if it was just the podcast or not, but I have not heard back. I did pitch them. And Rotary, I'm going to go try Rotary next. And the Chamber, I think, would be a good one, because she can just bring in a business a week and talk about what that business's struggles are, because if you're running your own business, it's your life. And people want to hear that story on how hard you're working. And just to hear that story is almost like a free ad. People are going to learn why you're working so hard at what you're doing. They're going to come see you. So.
Paul, are you doing with anything with any of the other sporting events? Like, I know you mentioned football, but like the Hockey Association.
So hockey, I'm working with those boosters, and that's why they're sponsoring the entire season for the girls. I did reach out to the Blue Line Club, which is the boys. They have not reached out back. And it kind of came to, last year I did as many games as I could. I think I did 23 hockey games. And it was pretty brutal, and it cost me quite a bit. I got to bring a couple announcers, at least 2 camera people.
Sure.
And so each game cost me about $150, and you've seen my budget. It is what it is. So then I kind of reached out to them and said, if you want to help me, I can come do this, and then I will figure out sponsors. And they said, they went and had a meeting, said, we want you to do the whole season. And so that's kind of cool. So then we're going to work on, they have their booster sponsors, which we run their logos and stuff and a little bit, but then I also put together a package. If a company wanted to do a little more, I come do a 30-second commercial video for your business. You can have the commercial. We're going to run it in here. And right now we're doing it as a you pay by the year. You give me this much a year, and I will put it in every live stream we do. And some of them are huge. Not all, but some are huge. Basketball, I try. Not a lot of people watch my basketball. I've tried for years and years. They have an auto cam in the gym that kind of tracks the ball. It works fairly well. You know, I tried soccer, people don't watch it. I tried lacrosse, people don't watch it. Hockey, they watch, and football, they watch, so. But like, 4th of July parade's a big one. That has a few thousand people. Ironically, I point a camera at the fireworks and film the fireworks, and 1,000 people will watch it. Don't know why, but they do.
Great. Thank you.
So those things we'll just have a brought to you by, and we will elaborate them on a little bit. You know, I have a big stage I would like to put in the middle of Lakeside Park for the 4th of July. Or if you do a Fall Fest, we can come put a stage and stream live from here or something maybe one year. I don't know what that would be. So it's just ways that people can stop by the booth like you see on Channel 5 and talk for a little bit and try and set up the day. So I'm open to anything.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like this podcast thing.
So I'm going to put it in your court. You can, I know my email's a little sketchy right now, but I did fix it. And so, yeah, you just reach out, and it does not have to be a finished idea. You just want to chat about it, I'll come to you, we'll just sit down and we'll brainstorm some ideas, and we can try them. And if they don't work, we'll learn from it, and we'll try a different way or something. But it's like I say, even your mayor's message, you're pretty detailed on that. So why not sit down and just chat about that stuff? Or if you bring in somebody that has some questions for you, just come in and answer some questions live. You know, or we set up, and new website I've been talking about this for a long time, but it's very close. and every podcast gets its own page, and every episode is on that page. So if your particular episode is on a business that week or whatever, you can go to that page on the website, and we can put whatever that business wants for links, for photos, for video, whatever, so it can promote. You know, this is going to turn into hundreds and hundreds of pages on the website. That's cool. That's what they're for. So.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Really?
Thanks, Paul.
Am I dismissed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Engineer report, Kevin.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. First item on the agenda is we're continuing to work on the LRIP application for the Hornsby Street North project. And for that, we need the passage of a resolution basically indicating the city's support for that project. As we did for the West Freeway Drive project, we will need to have Anoka County sponsor that project if we are successful. So I have reached out to Joe McPherson, the county attorney, and I will be going to their transportation committee meeting next week to make that pitch. But I think overall, Joe seemed very supportive of, again, sponsoring our project again. And so, so they'll need to pass a resolution as well, and we'll provide them all the information they need for that. But for now, I do need the council's passage of this particular resolution, and we'll continue to work on the other components of that, so.
And it's 16, not 26.
So I'll make the motion to approve the North Hornsby Street LRIP application and resolution 23-16, supporting the improvement of the northerly 1,200 feet of Hornsby Street up to the easterly city limit. Is there a second?
Rob, second.
Any other questions or discussion? Call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye.
Next item, just an update on ditch 102232. I did attend the Rice Creek Watershed District workshop on Monday. Also, Councilmember Hagelin, Mayor Priner, and City Administrator Elizabeth was there. So. So there are a lot of things that were discussed at that particular meeting, but to try to keep it short in terms of an update, in terms of the proposed repair project for the ditch, which would involve a number of things, primarily lowering the culverts at Pine Street, 137th and Jodrell, The good news is that the Pine Street culvert can be lowered without any particular obstacles from an environmental and permitting standpoint. Rice Creek did do wetland delineation north of Pine Street, between Pine Street and 137th. And the particular permitting issues come into play as far as wetlands if you have type 3, 4, and 5 wetlands. There are type 3 wetlands in that region, but they probably would not be impacted by lowering the Pine Street culvert. So that's the good news. When it comes to 137th and Jodrell, it gets more complicated. So one of the first items of discussion, which kind of answered a lot of questions that I think we had, was how the various laws related to public drainage and wetlands and public waters, how those all interplay with state law. And so their attorney, John Kolb, did a very thorough job of explaining how those all interact. And how it's all a balancing act with the DNR and how they process those, how they look at all of those laws together. And they all have to be taken into account jointly. But the DNR seems to be placing more and more emphasis on public waters and wetland law as opposed to drainage law. And so it would require a little bit of pushback to the DNR to make sure that drainage law is given a heavier emphasis. So, but anyways, the staff at Rice Creek has requested additional clarification from DNR staff in terms of how they would perceive lowering the culverts at 137th and Jodrell, because lowering those culverts would impact public waters, which is different than wetlands. Wetland impacts are pretty well defined in state law and how that's handled. Impacts to public waters, which the waters north of 137th and east of Jodrell are defined as public waters, which are different than wetlands. Impacts to public waters are not well defined in law or in precedents. So they're asking the DNR for additional clarification on what those impacts are. And they're not expecting a response from the DNR on that for maybe into the early part of 2024. So for now, things are a little bit in limbo, and so we're just basically waiting to see what Rice Creek finds out from the DNR, if anything, on that. So that's kind of where it's at. I don't know if you have any questions, or if those other in attendance have additional information or anything that I forgot that was discussed that would be pertinent.
Anybody?
So I don't have anything to add to what was discussed at the workshop, but you and I were both at the city-county partner thing that Rice Creek put on this afternoon, and I had several conversations with President Bradley and John Waller, and I know that John Waller cornered you too. Mm-hmm. There was a very different level of engagement at that meeting than I felt on Monday. So I'm curious if you are feeling like you might want to share. I mean, I can say what the conversation was. It was very positive and very collegial and inviting. I told President Bradley that that we were going to suggest at the meeting on Monday, but didn't get around to it, that if there was going to be a conversation with the DNR, that it would be good if we partnered on that, and that we were going to ask our attorney, Bill Griffith, to contact John Kolb, and he goes, fantastic. I will send him an email and let him know to expect to hear from him. I think that's great. And it's like, really? Oh, good. You know? So, but I know what I heard today was more ideas from them about how to address this problem in different ways. And I think what was a genuine invitation for the city to petition the watershed to help engage in this. And they're like, it's not going to be a short process. It'll be a long process. But I mean, we didn't get into detail, but it had a very different feel than what it felt like in the workshop. And I'm not exactly sure why that was, but I know John Waller told me that he had talked to you, other than bending your ear and teasing you about the Bolton Mink Forest Lake team versus our team. But anything you want to share other than that?
No, I mean, I think there was the same vibe from Mr. Waller in terms of inviting any and every kind of idea to be brought to the board for consideration. And yeah, he was ribbing me a little bit in terms of what's been done in Forest Lake, and so. But I think this is a different type of issue here that we're dealing with, and what they dealt with in Forest Lake. But so yeah. Yeah, it was definitely he was very inviting in terms of, coming up with different ideas, and if we have anything to bring them to the board, so.
So one of the questions that I would have for you, Kevin, is it, how do I want to, I don't say is it worth it, but I mean, they seem to express surprise that we aren't more concerned about what this problem does for our future development, and that we should take seriously the constraints that this, if we didn't do anything, that this might have on future development, and be thinking about, well, what would be the solution to that, so that we, so if we aren't having to keep all of our water on our own land, what other options are there? And I'm just wondering, like, how would you move forward with this? I mean, would your team put their heads together and say, what are some great ideas, regardless of how crazy they might see? Let's just throw everything on the wall and see what sticks. Or I'm just not exactly sure how you start something like that.
Well,
I mean, I love the idea, like, let's put our heads together and figure out what we might be able to do, but I'm not even sure where to start. It seems like it's so complicated.
Yeah, and I would have to think about that more as well, and probably get other individuals involved in that brainstorming, so to speak. Particularly Tim Olson, who is our more or less our drainage person for the city. And I think Mr. Waller is looking at it from a very big picture point of view, whereas we're looking at it from, more focused on this particular ditch project at this point in time. So I think he's coming at it from a couple different angles. So I think it would require a little bit more thought on what we would do moving forward, so.
Do you think it lends itself to a workshop discussion for us, or?
Well, I think from the perspective of the ditch project itself, this 10/22/32, I think John has a little bit different perspective than I would. I think he's thinking that there's a lot more city water that comes to the ditch than there actually is, because by and large, it's wall dock condition right now in terms of undeveloped property that's already been platted and planned out. So, and the rest is basically residential and already developed. So, I think if we're looking at other areas in town that could be considered that currently are not developed, and whether we need to have a more robust planning effort for those areas. That would be something that we'd have to think about, so.
Anything else, Kevin?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Any other questions on the ditch project? All right, thank you. Attorney's report. I think our attorney's online. Good evening, Bill.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for allowing me to come to you from Guatemala. So my connection may be a little unstable. I'm going to give a quick report on what was a good meeting with staff and David Harchanko and the potential investors, David Fisher and Rise Capital. We had a meeting at the city staff meeting. We heard about Rise Capital, which has almost $6 billion worth of property under management. More recently, David Fisher and his family have started a local office and a local company to develop apartment projects. They have several apartment projects, including in Cambridge, Monticello, and in areas that are probably described as rural or semi-urban, so similar to our site. We probed a bit on the timing of the project and funding of the project. The advantage that Rise Capital has is they bring a higher level of investment to the project, so the loan to value ratio is lower, which makes it easier to fund in these times. They are doing they've already done an internal market study, and they believe the project is financeable. And to work with lenders and investors, they would then do an external market study by someone like Maxwell or Maxfield, I should say, and that's a likely vendor. So what have we done since the last council meeting? With your direction at the last council meeting, we prepared and entered into a 7th amendment to the purchase agreement, hopefully the last amendment. That amendment, as you authorized, moves the contingency date to December 31, so they can finish their market study. It moves the closing date to on or before April 15th. The one variable, and I want to put this out there for the council, is they would like flexibility to start either in 2023, which is starting in 2023, they'd like the option to start in 2024. So what happens is if they close in April, and they've not asked to move that date out, then they have the land under control, and it becomes more likely the project will be built. We did indicate, however, that we want an absolute deadline of starting in 2024. We don't want to see the project to continue to slip. And they didn't seem to think that would be a problem. One thing that's interesting to note is that Brian Bass, who has BJ Bass Construction, is also, or would also be, an investor in the project. So he'll have skin in the game. And that's significant. It's pretty unusual that a contractor would actually have a piece of the project. So I'll just pause there. That's an update for you. And if there are any questions, we can take them now.
Bill, this is Janet. What was the December 31st date? That is the date of what? The deadline for that?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember, Mayor and Councilmember. That date is the contingency date. So that's the date to complete their review of the market study, any other documents, including the development agreement, which we've now sent back through David Harchanko. And on that date, they would no longer have the ability to get out of the deal. The earnest money, which they've agreed to another $10,000 in earnest money, would become non-refundable. And they would, in fact, be required under the contract to close by April 15th. So we would have a pretty good indication by the end of this year whether or not the project's a go.
Hey, Bill, this is Rob. So you're saying that BJ Bass out of Cambridge would possibly be a funding source for this project? Would they also stand as the general contractor?
Yes, to both. Maybe it is Boss, not Bass, but that was what I had in my notes. But yes, we met Brian, and he would be not only an investor in the project, but the contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, anyone?
You're welcome.
None here. So I think that's all good news, hopefully.
Mr. Mayor and Council, yeah. Mr.
Go ahead, Bill.
There are questions you have for me.
You kind of broke up. You might need to repeat that question.
Yes, my connection's kind of unstable, so unless you have other legal questions for me, I'm going to sign off at this point.
We do not, I don't.
I don't think so.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, number 12, Mayor and City Council members report. Ron.
I have nothing.
Sue.
And I don't have anything because Janet, are you going to cover the Personnel Committee? Okay, nope, I don't have anything.
Janet.
So, so I'll be just doing this on behalf of the Personnel Committee. So yesterday at our special meeting, we interviewed candidate Jack Davis for the interim city administrator position and had discussion afterwards. So I guess I would start off by asking whether anybody had any further thoughts or wanted further discussion on whether or not we should move forward with Mr. Davis as our applicant or whether we should keep looking. So I'll start with that question first.
Well, I think we had a good interview yesterday. I think the consensus was pretty good to move it forward, unless anybody has new ideas since last night. Anybody?
I'm still good with it.
I'm good with it.
Me too.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then with that input, then I would move to direct the Personnel Committee to draft and negotiate a professional services agreement with Mr. Davis and bring that agreement back to the City Council at the November 20th,
Yep.
2023 City Council meeting.
This is Sue, I'll second.
Are there any other questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, I.
Janet, I.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye.
And I mentioned the meeting that I was at with Rice Creek, so I don't have anything else.
Rob, anything from you?
So interesting, we approved that conduit bond last week, right? I was down in Rosemont for a ribbon cutting for one of our contractors through work. Built a new building down there, and I was able to talk to the mayor, Jeff, down there. He actually thanked us because that made another project go in their area. I was able to talk to their city council and their county commissioner, and they thought that it was very coincidental and a good tie. So just wanted to share that they were happy about that. So
Yeah. Good. All right.
that's all I got.
Code enforcement report.
I think that must be left over from, we're not already due for a quarterly report. Didn't we just have one?
No, it's a placeholder, just saying that it's a quarterly report, in the agenda so that people know that it's quarterly and not each week.
When there is one, we'll have it. Yeah.
Got it.
Public Works, Jim.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Public Communication.
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Elizabeth, City Administrator.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I have 3 items under my report. The first is election judge hourly wage scale. In your additions on pages A3, A4, and A5, I wanted to briefly go over wage scale and also the application for election judges. We've had an ad out for election judges now for quite some time. I think Lori said we're up to 12 applications. And in order to staff 3 elections next year, we generally have between 30 and 35 judges, and we use them on various different platforms, whether it's for absentee voting, the day of voting, trading, or through training and such. So we do need a large number. And not only that, there is a requirement that we have party balance. So for us, our pool, if we had a pool of all one party, it wouldn't work for us. We wouldn't actually be able to employ all of them because we wouldn't meet the requirements. So sometimes we have to recruit more than you would think we need because we need to achieve party balance between Republicans and Democrats. So sometimes people will say, well, I signed up and you didn't use me. Well, probably it was because we had too many of one party, or we couldn't achieve the party balance. But what we do try to do during elections is it's a very long day. And if you're working from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, it really is hard to be accurate through that entire time. So we do, and we have now for many years done split shifts. And we give people an 8-hour shift, and then there's a change of shift, so you have a fresh pair of eyes and a group at 1 o'clock. Our head judge, though, however, stays the whole day, and she has 2 assistant judges that help her throughout the day. She has come to us and said she is going to do it for another year. So very pleased that she's going to do that, because she's been doing it for over 20 years and so has lots and lots of experience in running the election from the poll place. So with that, we have to look at wages. And the reason why we're bringing it to you now versus normally we would talk about this in June of next year for the August primary and then the general election. But there is a presidential primary on March 5th, and early voting starts January 19th. So we are now training people and bringing people in because we're starting to get close to, believe it or not, you know what I mean, those months. And through the holidays, it's really hard to train people, so we're gonna, back it up to December, first 2 weeks in December, and then we'll probably have something in January. Because of the new requirements of the legislature, I'm not sure whether those requirements are going to apply for the primary. For staff, we have our training towards the end of the month, and so I'll let you know what the new rules for the primary are. I do know that we're going to have 3 separate ballots for the primary. There are 3 approved parties now that will have a primary on that date. So what I have given you, Anoka County did a survey on wages. This is their survey. They surveyed all of Anoka County on page 83, looking at election judge wages, assistant head judge, and head judge training. One of the new things that they've asked us to do, and it started last election in 2022, they've asked us to have what they call a technology coordinator judge. We have found that now we have a lot of technology in the polling place, and when that happens or something goes awry and people aren't, and you don't have someone pretty knowledgeable about modems and iPads and connections and those sorts of things, it tends to create a little, I won't say ruckus, but elections don't go smoothly when equipment starts to not work. So they've asked us now to have at least one person in the poll place that knows a fair amount of technology, and if something does go awry, they know how to reset a modem or they know how to do those sorts of things. So right now there's 3 different what I call classes of election judge. You have an election judge that takes on a job, and whatever job it is for that day, that's what they do. The head judge assigns those jobs. We as staff do not assign those jobs. That head judge is in charge of that polling place, and they are the ones who determine what jobs, based on skill set, that they assign to election judges for both shifts. And the assistant head judges are ones that elect on the judge application that someday they want to be in charge. And that's how you learn, is that you kind of shadow and sign and do all the paperwork that's required. And so we do have some of those. So that's just a little bit of elevated pay because they do a little bit more training. They have a little bit more responsibilities on elections day. And so again, they just get a little bump in pay. The technical coordinator judge, for whatever reason, again, they class it with the assistant head judge, again, for that level of pay. The head judge has always gotten more pay. They have an enormous responsibility on that day. They are in charge of that polling place. They take care of all the issues. If they can't take care of those issues, they'll either call the clerk or we rely on Anoka County in order to resolve problems. And it could be a lot of different problems on election day that come through the door. And you want, I mean, the whole point of election day is so you want to make sure that everyone can vote. So you really try your best, no matter what the problem is, to resolve it, because the motivation is that they are able to vote if they're eligible to vote and they're in the right polling place. We've had on occasion people say, I've voted here for 40 years, and even though I moved to Forest Lake, I still want to vote in Columbus. And you know what? You just can't do that. So with that, my recommendation for pay is that we pay $13 an hour for election judges, $14 an hour for both assistant head judges and technology coordinator judges, and $15 an hour for our head judge. And if you feel that you would like to do something else or another 2 weeks to review the survey, we can certainly wait 2 weeks. But once we get to the end of November, we will have to set wages because we will have training.
All right, I'll make the motion to approve the 2024 election judge hourly wage scale as follows. Election judges, $13 per hour. Assistant head judge, $14 per hour. And the head judge, $15 per hour. Is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
This is Janet, I second.
Any other questions or?
Yeah, sorry, Janet, I jumped the gun there on you. So you were saying that some of these people will be working over 8 hours. Will they be getting paid overtime after that at an overtime rate of time and a half?
They don't. Until they, in the state of Minnesota, until you work over 40 hours, you wouldn't be eligible for overtime. And so, no, they are not eligible for that.
Okay.
But you said, Elizabeth, that you're splitting their shifts, so they're not scheduled for more than 8 hours, except for the
main one would.
The head judge.
Yep, the head judge does work the entire day, but everyone else is scheduled. It's generally 6 to 1:30, and then we have the others, come in at 1 and they work till the poll places close. But we can't release the election judges until we have all the ballots out of the box and we have accounted for every ballot in the polling place. Generally, they're here till 9 o'clock. By the time we get all the paperwork, all the machine, and all the ballots crated up. So it just takes a little bit longer at the end of the night to get that done. But we really do try to keep it for 8 hours because, again, we're trying to have accurate counts, and people get, after 8 hours, you start to get tired. You're on your feet. It's a long day in the poll place because it's usually, especially in the presidential, you have a lot of people coming through. Although now I'm not really sure what's going to happen because if we have 17 days of direct balloting, I'm not really sure how many people are going to be, in the poll place versus doing envelope service versus, the direct balloting. So we'll kind of see how that all works out over time.
Thank you for answering my question.
Welcome.
I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye.
Janet, I.
Rabbi.
And Jesse, aye.
My second item is the 2024 Medical Benefits Group Public Employees Insurance Program application. For as long as I've been here, we have participated in the PEEP program offering medical and dental insurance to our employees. I'm happy to say this year we did not have an increase. We had a very minimal decrease, which after the past couple of years of double-digit increases, it is nice to have just a slight reprieve from that. My recommendation is that we still stay with the PEEP program as we're a small group and competitively they are able to negotiate the best premiums for that service. I will say that the state, there's one change in the overall. They used to have 3 vendors. And this year, it's only 2 vendors, so preferred one is no longer available through that program. And now it's either Health Partners or Blue Cross Blue Shield. So that is the only change in the program for this year.
So I'll make the motion to approve the Minnesota Public Employees Insurance Program Group application for 2024. Is there a second?
Yep, this is Sue, I'll second.
And are there any more questions or discussion? Anybody give you a reason why they didn't raise it again?
I think that's actually happened across the board. I saw that reported in the paper. I don't know why, what the reason is, but it's not just us that are seeing that. And I know, like with the plan that I have through the university, it stayed pretty flat.
Anybody else? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, I.
Janet, I.
Rob, aye.
Jesse, aye.
And lastly, looking at the calendar, I know we're not thinking of Christmas yet, but looking at planning and looking at calendar, this year we have a Saturday-Sunday calendar, I'm sorry, a Sunday-Monday calendar. So Christmas Eve is on Sunday and Christmas Day is on Monday. And so the employee handbook says that when a holiday falls on a Sunday, it then moves to Monday. And so the Christmas Eve holiday ends up falling on another holiday, which is Christmas. So the request is that we are able to close the office on December 26th for that half a holiday, and they would take vacation and or no pay for the other half a day. So it would be a 4-day weekend. So it would be a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we would be closed. And then the following Monday, which is New Year's Day, would be the other holiday for this holiday season.
So in your motion, you don't have the New Year's holiday on there. Should that be added?
New Year's Day is a holiday, you know what I mean, in the handbook, and so is a half a day on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It's just odd, you know what I mean. It's just the way they fall, that it falls on a Sunday. So we don't need a motion for the following Monday. It's just the Sunday holiday.
Got it. So I'll make the motion to approve closing the office on December 26th with the understanding that employees will use vacation or no pay day for the half of the day. Is there a second?
Rob, second.
Any other questions or discussion? We'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, I.
Janet, I.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye.
I have nothing further.
All right. So then we're on to announcements and reminders. EDA and City Council Workshop meeting, December 14th at 6, or sorry, November 14th at 6. Planning Commission, November 15th at 6. City Council meeting, November 20th at 6. The whole calendar's on the back. Anyone like to make the motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, I have a question, sorry. I have the EDA starting at 5:30 on my calendar. Is it 6?
Oh,
EDA and City Council Workshop, it says 6 o'clock. I have EDA and Council Workshop starting at 5:30.
Oh, the EDA's normally start at 5 and
They have
council at
5:30.
6?
This is the workshop, and it's 5:30 for the EDA and council workshop. So if it says 6 o'clock on the agenda, that should be changed to
5:30?
5:30.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Well, Ron already made it.
Oh, then I'll second his motion.
Okay.
call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, I.
Janet, I.
Rob, aye.
Jesse, aye. Our meeting is adjourned.